Aloha, my friends!
And welcome to the UnAlteredE Experience. How are you today?
Thank you so much for joining us.
Her name is Sarah.
Yes, and that's my husband, Alexander.
And she happens to be my roommate, so it's pretty cool.
Or his wife, whatever.
Oh, yeah.
Depends on the day. Just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Anyway, welcome to the UnAlteredE Experience. We make no claims for anybody.
That's right.
What we're doing is we're bringing Molly's experience or any guest's experience to you. If it works, it works. If it doesn't, it doesn't. But we're all different, and we'd love to learn from people's different experiences.
Absolutely, absolutely.
So today we have Molly Trapuzzano. Welcome.
As our special guest. Thank you so much for being here with us.
You have the distinction of having the most Italian name we've ever had on the show, with two Z's in there. So let's just start with a quick background check. Where were you born? Where were you raised?
So I was born in Mississippi, but I never lived there. My parents moved right after I was born, and I grew up just outside of Chicago in Naperville, Illinois. I lived there for most of my childhood until about midway through middle school when I moved to Florida, and I've been in Florida ever since.
Oh, doing Florida right now.
What part of Florida?
We're just outside of Tampa.
Tampa, Florida. So
Tampa.
Storms and awesome weather and humidity.
Yeah, it's really hot right now. It's like 100 degrees every day, but sunshine's nice, so it's good. Can't complain.
Sunshine is nice, and AC makes it doable, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. So when you were growing up, what was it like as far as the food situation? Like, what kind of food did you eat? Did your mom cook? Dad cook?
Yeah, my mom cooked. My dad was the breadwinner and was at work every day. And so my mom probably cooked your traditional American meals, the meat and potatoes type things. And I was a really picky eater when I was a kid. So I would always request chicken fingers or mac and cheese or ramen noodles, all the terrible, awful things.
Awesome. And when you were growing up, whether it was a broken bone, sickness, flu, whatever it may be, what kind of, how did they address any of those issues?
Typically, my mom would just have me rest on the couch all day and drink juice instead of water and eat saltine crackers and manage any symptoms with Tylenol or Motrin or Pepto-Bismol.
Got it. Traditional, regular ways. Yeah, I had baby Tylenol when I was a kid.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, I had baby Tylenol until I think yesterday, because
he couldn't swallow a pill.
It's so funny. This morning I was taking my Terrazymes, and I totally almost died. I don't know why, but it's just something about those pills that intimidate me. I could eat the biggest chunk of meat and swallow it. I start getting pills in there, and I freaked out. Anyway, so yeah, baby Tylenols. I'm like, Mom. She's like, here, take 20 of these. I'm like, okay. But, okay, traditional ways. Now, when you went to Florida, you went to high school in Florida, and then did you go into college? What'd you do?
Yeah, I went to the University of Central Florida, and I majored in education and became an elementary school teacher.
Nice.
Yeah, so I taught third and fourth grade for 5 years. And during that time was kind of when I entered my adult health crisis and had a major career change because of it. So that's kind of where all the craziness started.
Okay,
all right.
So when was that, or what year roughly was that?
This would have been 2012, 2013.
2012.
Okay. All right, let's transition to that. So what happened?
Well, as a lot of teachers know, I know probably some of your listeners are teachers, lots of teachers out there. Teaching is not easy.
For
and
sure.
It takes a lot of hours. It's a lot of hours that are not just in the classroom, but at home grading papers and constantly thinking about the students and wondering how you can help them better. So it's kind of the job that never ends. It's like having 40 children that are yours. All at once.
Totally. My dad was a teacher, so I was raised with my father as a teacher.
And what's crazy is that they are all yours for that time period, right?
Right. Absolutely.
And a lot of stress comes home. Like I remember I'm the oldest of 7, And so he would go teach all these kids that had all of these, like, you know, you're not in charge of you're not raising them at home, right? So like they have all these discipline issues and you're dealing with it all day. And then he'd come home and he would want us to all listen immediately. But we're still, you know what I'm saying? And it'd be like, it was very stressful. And grading papers and the long hours. Yes, teachers should be paid the most. I definitely agree.
For sure. And when they have students like me, they should get bonuses.
But anyways, keep going.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I guess, I mean, looking back on it, the only thing I can think of is that stress kind of took its toll and had some negative health effects. And with what I know now, I really believe that everybody has tendencies towards certain health problems. And then when we don't take care of ourselves right, those are the health problems that arise. So I don't think it was that stress causes XYZ necessarily. I think stress causes different things for different people. But for me, I started getting really terrible digestive issues all the time. I stopped getting my period and I was only 22 years old. What? So that's not normal. And it had been months and months and months with no period. And so I knew something was wrong. Like I felt nauseous every time I ate something. And I was stressed, but I thought that I was managing it well. I didn't think I couldn't handle it. I've always been really resilient mentally and emotionally. But sometimes our body tells us things that our mind doesn't for whatever reason.
Totally.
So in my head, I thought, no, I can do this. I'm doing great. I can handle everything and I'll help everybody all the time and everything will be great. And then my body was saying, nope.
Yeah.
And so I saw lots of different specialists. I went to a GI doctor and he did an endoscopy and he showed me the scans from it. And he goes, look, your stomach is really inflamed and red and swollen. And I said, oh, okay. So you found it. Like, what's the problem? And he said, oh, I don't know. I'm just telling you what I see. And I said, well, what typically causes that? And he said, I don't know. Did you eat something wrong?
What? Oh my gosh.
What?
So leading up to that, what had your nutrition been like?
So as I became an adult, I've always been, well, when did it start? Probably in high school, I started being interested in natural health and like being healthy. Nice. So I always ate things that I thought were healthy.
Totally.
But the thing is nobody really knows, like there's so much contradictions out there that it was so difficult for me to actually navigate what those things were. So in high school, what I thought was healthy were like those breakfast crackers called Belvita and it says whole grain on the box.
Right.
But
and like fiber bars,
they
right?
Taste good.
Yeah. Right. But that's processed food,
Totally.
And then like I thought Greek yogurt was healthy. I'm like, oh, it's Greek yogurt. It's high in protein, but that's dairy, which was causing digestive issues. Dairy products most Americans can't digest. So I ate all the things that I thought were healthy. I like whole wheat tortillas, but I had a gluten problem, so that's not okay.
Oh my gosh. It's totally I just love that you're bringing this point up because you're totally correct. There's so many labels that unless you have an education and you've taken the time to like really go back and like do your research and then understand your body and what works good for your body, it's so confusing. Raw, right? Like all this it's raw. It must be totally good for my body, Like, yes, there's so much confusion. Totally.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah.
So when your doctor told you that it was just inflamed and he had no idea where it came from, what did that get you thinking?
Were you like annoyed?
Yeah. I was really frustrated because, when our society tells us that doctors are supposed to have the answers and they're supposed to know how to make us better. And he didn't have the answers and he didn't know how to make me better. And I mentioned to him that I hadn't had my period in however many months. And he said, oh, well, then you should go to your GYN and have them run some hormone panels. So I did that. And they at first said that there was nothing wrong with them. And which was weird because I was like, you're a GYN and you can't tell me why I haven't had a period in like at that time, 8 months or so?
Yeah. You're like, and I'm not pregnant.
Yeah. I'm not
so like, what's the deal?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
And so eventually the GYN came up with this diagnosis of PCOS, which is polycystic ovarian syndrome. Apparently it's incredibly common, and it's the number one cause of infertility among US women.
Do they know what causes that?
They don't. Like many other things, they say that it's just, you just have it, or, you know. And
what
I
is
asked,
PCOYS? What is it?
PCOS, polycystic ovarian syndrome.
Have you heard of that before? Oh, that's gnarly.
I'm a female, so I've heard
It's a woman thing.
Yeah. Okay.
I asked them if it was permanent. And they said, yeah, you're going to have this your whole life. There's no way to get rid of it. And I asked, well, how do you know that I have it? And they said, well, there's 3 markers. You have high levels of testosterone and androgen in your blood. You have irregular periods. And if you have 2 out of the 3 things, you have it. So cysts on the ovaries is the third thing. And I didn't have any cysts on my ovaries. So I said, well, so what you're saying is I only have 2 out of the 3 things. What if I fix my blood work? And what if I get my periods back? Then would I still have it? And she said, yeah, because you have it. And I said, but you wouldn't know. If I was a new patient and I came into your practice and I didn't have these symptoms, would you diagnose me with this? And she said, well, I wouldn't know that you had it. And I was like, but then do I really have it?
Good questions. Good questions.
It's
for
so
you,
frustrating that they have this thing that they think is right, and you're like, well, what about this? And it's plain as day. And they're like, well, you know what I mean?
Especially when there's so many other reasons, those other 2 things could be happening. Right? Absolutely. Like, it's not like the only way those 2 things are ever off means that you have this. That isn't the case. There's like a million other reasons why that could be happening. And no one ever brought up stress.
Yeah. So my primary care physician, who was the first person I went to see, they brought up stress, and they were like, are you stressed? And I was like, well, I'm a teacher. So I mean, probably, but I don't feel like I need a counselor. Like, I'm handling my job okay.
Yeah.
And they said, well, maybe you need to be on like anxiety medication or antidepressants. And that just wasn't something I was open to. So they kind of just threw their hands up and were like, oh, well, if you don't want the anxiety medication, then we can't really help you. And it's probably just stress. So they don't really have a solution there.
Yeah, it's said there's such a disconnect. And I feel like we're working on creating, where the 2 can go hand in hand, right? Like an alternative and natural healing and health and nutrition along with the medical world. But there's been so divided for so long. And that's part of the problem with everybody's health. It's like,
right.
Yes.
Well, and one of the things that's really great about modern medicine is their ability to diagnose. So like, well, usually not in my case, but like even the GI doctor, he could see that my stomach was inflamed. So if I were somebody who were out of touch with my body and I didn't know that, then it's like, oh, okay, this is red, this is inflamed. Or, normally they can tell if there's an infection, or they can tell if, things are broken from scans. So
yeah, totally. There's definitely a place, and they can run tons of tests. So that is awesome. For sure. Yeah, I definitely agree. So here you are, frustrated at the doctors, and you're like, all right, so what do we do now? And you left, and then what was your mission was, how do I heal myself?
Yep.
That's awesome.
And so since I was so interested in natural health and healing, I had been using essential oils already. And so I started looking into what essential oils could first help with the things that I was experiencing on a day-to-day basis. So my favorite was Digestion soft gels, which I took with every meal, and sometimes one every 3 hours, depending on the day and how I was feeling.
Nice.
Okay, so I'm just curious. Describe what were you feeling that you were like, let's take the Digestion soft gels?
I was literally nauseous most of the time.
That is so interesting.
Yeah, it was terrible. And I remember asking the GYN who diagnosed me with PCOS, I said, my digestion is really messed up too. So maybe this is like linked, and maybe there's a different diagnosis that links hormones and digestive health together.
Oh, totally.
And she said, no, digestion and hormones aren't linked at all. There's no link there.
Yeah.
Oh, that's just so sad. Lack of education.
It's and the problem is it comes from people that we're told and brought up to trust, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you're like, oh, they must know.
Well,
The link, sure.
and the truth is, really, she just was giving the best diagnosis she could with the information she knew. Like, she
Wasn't
literally.
good enough.
Yeah, that's,
Get educated,
that's true.
people. Get educated, doctors.
That isn't.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Look, we're not calling out doctors. We're
I'm
really
calling 'em out.
grateful.
I'm
Thank
calling
you
'em
for
out.
all your
Why
work.
can't I call them out? I can
Oh
call
my
out
God.
doctors.
Okay. Okay. Let's
Okay,
stay
I'm running out of
focused.
I'm getting frustrated
Let's stay
here,
focused.
myself. Hold on. I'm gonna go back. How'd you get introduced to essential oils?
Oh, good question. So I used to have some significant head tension when I was much younger, and it went all the way through my teens and high school, middle school, all of that. And so the typical thing was my mom would hand me 2 Excedrin and say, here you go.
Yeah.
But those didn't get rid of it completely. And I had other symptoms that went along with that. Like half my body would go numb. It wasn't just my head.
Yeah.
It wasn't just my head that was hurting. It was like other stuff too. Like my fingers I wouldn't be able to feel my fingers, and they would feel like they were going to explode. And like I would have a panic attack at the same time because I felt like I was dying, because I knew that those were signs of stroke. And I was like,
Jeez.
I'm 17 years old. I'm not having a stroke, right? Like, it's okay that half my body is numb. Is that normal? Like,
dude, that's all bad.
What?
That's
okay. So what did you do about that?
Well, my parents took me to a neurologist, and they were like, maybe you have a brain tumor. And they did a scan, and there was no tumor. So they told me that it was just different type of, head discomfort that's different for different people.
Oh, cool.
Oh, my goodness.
So I can't imagine. So our daughter, she's almost 18, so obviously still 17. And for sure, she's concerned sometimes about certain things. But if she had some sort of like issue or something, sometimes she'll have something, she'll be like, what's happening?
Oh, yeah,
but
totally. She's always like, I must be dying. I'm like, no, honey, you're totally not dying. This is okay.
And it's nothing. It's
But
nothing.
that's like
But
what she
having
always
half your
goes
body
to.
go numb, I can only imagine that you, like you said, I'm
Anxiety,
not
for
going to die.
Pete's
So
sake.
the stress already kicking in at that time.
Yeah, maybe so. And so my neighbor was like, oh, I have this past tense essential oil roller thing. You want to try this?
Oh, that is awesome.
I said, yes, anything in the whole entire world, please.
Yeah.
And it worked better than anything I'd ever tried.
Okay, and
so
how did you apply
it.
it? How did you apply it, the past tense?
She rolled it on her.
I'm asking
Okay,
her. Hello.
My bad.
Okay, go ahead. Sorry.
That is an interesting question, because when I recommend it to other people, I find that typically women will apply the past tense to their men who have issues, right? Because they like all wanting to be kind and helpful and whatnot, motherly.
Not her. Not her. No.
Oh my gosh. Take your health into your own hands. We've been doing this long enough for the love of life.
I just want my wife to help me.
Yeah, at the beginning I used to, and now he's still like, can you? I'm like, hello, I have 20,000 other things to do. Could you just pick the roller and rub it on yourself for Pete's sake? Anyways, go ahead. I apologize.
So the problem is, if people don't apply it themselves in the area where it hurts the most, then you're not going to get the correct results. And so, some people say, oh, just put it on your temples. But for me, the issue is really stemming from like the upper part of my neck. It would come up and over the top. And so I applied it to the very base of my brain, like the base of my neck. And I rolled it kind of up into my hairline. And for me, that was the best application point, because that's where it was coming from. So now whenever I share past tense with people, I say, don't put it on somebody else. Whoever has the issue, have them put it wherever it is.
Yes.
Except for no, that wasn't that.
I thought you were high-fiving.
Talk to the hand, because I need your help.
Oh my gosh.
Well, that's
okay,
good.
I totally agree.
Perfect.
Okay, and what did you do about your numbing half of your body? Do you still get that?
Oh, no. So that would only happen if I didn't manage it some other way. So like that was like the late signs. That was after everything had gone completely haywire and I had let everything get out of hand. So using the past tense, it just put a stop to everything. It fixed it. Once I started to see those lines in my vision, I would put the past tense on, and then I would have no pain, no numbness, none of that other.
You would see lines in your vision? What on
Hold
the
on. So
earth?
now I got to, you said, oh, I had some head tension. On a scale of 1 to 10, what do you think that head tension was?
Like, can't be out. Sorry, I was getting a phone call, so I just clicked on it.
No, that's okay.
Can't be outside in the sunlight. Like 8.5 on a pain scale, like laying down in bed, like can't do today kind of.
Dude, that's gnarly. The way you're presenting it, I'm like, oh, she had a little bit, but like that's gnarly.
Yeah, that's really intense.
So
how awesome.
But a lot of people have that. That's a really common, a lot of Americans struggle with those.
I know.
Yeah, that's true. That is
true. Yeah, I've had lots of headaches.
It's like it's one of the things like you're like, oh, my health issues, but I used to have like migraines. It's like, oh, okay, well, that's gnarly. So, all right. So
your first experience is past tense, and here you are, a teenager, right? So you're just like, hey, Mom, can we get me some past tense? Right?
Yeah, when I found past tense, I think I was, I don't know, between 18 and 20. I was a little bit older then.
So you got your own.
But I had struggled with it for all that time. Yeah, I did get my own. I started with an essential oil kit, actually, because I was like, well, if there's an oil for this, there's probably an oil for other stuff. I want all the oils.
Good for you. So you were one of those young, I mean, first of all, you are young. You look super young. I can't even, like when you said taught for 5 years, I'm like, how old are you? Like, what the heck? How'd you teach for 5 years? But anyways, so you started with a kit at a very young age. That's awesome. Power to you.
Yeah, okay, my parents thought I was crazy. They were like, what? How do you even know that these will all work and stuff? And I said, because did you see how that one works? Like, what?
You're like, do you know the relief I just got?
Yeah.
Okay, so awesome. So you started with an essential oil kit. Can I ask, what kit did you start with?
I started with, I guess nowadays they call it the Family Essentials Kit.
Family Essentials.
Okay, awesome. So the Family Essentials Kit, and then you probably added on a past tense.
I did.
Okay. Yep. So now you got your oils, you're starting to use them in your life, and then you're a teacher. Did you use them in your classroom?
I did. I would diffuse on guard. We had the best attendance in the entire school.
Yes. Congratulations. Did you hear that, teachers? On guard in the classroom. Keep that classroom healthy. We're not making any claims at all. But we're just saying,
And then what, you had option. Like Serenity and lavender in a big old spray bottle, so they'd walk in from what you call this, everyone in the place like, oh, okay. Oh.
Yeah, it was really funny. When I diffused lavender, and the kids who were the most crazy, those were the kids who would go over there and just put their nose right over that diffuser. And I was like, it looked like they were attention seeking, like wanting me to tell them to sit down and get back to your seat. But I was just like, that's cool. You can stand right there.
Absolutely. Let that get into the brain. That's awesome. That is super awesome. Because the truth is, and I've seen some people when diffusers are going, they're like, oh, no, don't go over and breathe. I'm like, hey, they totally can. It's totally fine. Like I've noticed our 3-year-old, ever since he was little, not all the time, but sometimes he really goes over and he just like puts his face and he inhales it. And I know it's that he needs it. Mm-hmm. Like he is just doing what his body needs. He doesn't even know. And I just totally let him, and it's totally fine. Just so to our viewers, if you are using good quality essential oils and they are going in your diffuser, if your child puts their face over and breathes it in, totally okay. Yes, Totally okay. There's no negative side effects going to happen there. Anyways, continue. I apologize. Great story, by the way.
No, it's good. So, midway through teaching, when I got sick and everything like that, and I wasn't getting the answers that I wanted from doctors, around that same time, I saw an ad somewhere. I don't know if it was a Facebook ad or if it was an email I got. I don't even remember where I saw it, but I saw an ad for the Integrative Institute for Nutrition. Oh. And it's a health coaching program that promotes holistic health and healing. And so I thought, oh, that sounds so cool. And then I thought, you know what, I really need to figure out what's wrong with me because I can't keep living like this. Mm-hmm. And my essential oils were helping me with what I was experiencing from day to day. Mm-hmm. But I wanted to address the root cause, which I didn't know what it was because nobody could tell me what it was. Mm-hmm. And so I went back to school to become a health coach, and I did those classes online while I was still teaching full time.
Oh my goodness. So add to the stress. No, just kidding.
I mean, yes and no.
Because you were finding answers, right?
Yeah, I was finding answers. And so I was able to kind of create this whole process for helping myself feel better with the combination of the essential oils and also Lifelong Vitality and some other supplements doTERRA makes, and the self-care techniques and the nutrition stuff that I learned from the health coaching program.
Just being able to unite all of it.
Yes, absolutely. And that's what it takes, because
Totally.
our bodies are so complex. There's not one magic pill for everything. And even with the oils, a lot of times somebody asks me like, what's the one oil for this thing?
You're
And
like,
if
there's
this
not
is
one.
like something that has a root cause and they've had it for years, it's like, well, you're going to need like lots of different things. And lifelong vitality is like the foundation. Like before we even start with oils, I always tell people like, you have to be taking that lifelong vitality. It's so important.
Yes. Okay. Audience, hear this. Lifelong vitality is the foundation of your health. The oils are fabulous and amazing. There's no nutritional value in them, though. So you need to be getting the nutrients. Your body needs the nutrients so that it can actually use the oils to help heal itself.
So what she's saying is the food we eat doesn't completely like address all what we need, right? So supplementation is key.
Totally. Totally. And just, I went to a total seminar, and it was all about like a common thing in people who live to be 100. And one of the common things was that they all took a supplement.
Like all those people in Japan?
All of the people. Yeah, no, seriously, all over the
supplements?
country. No, honey.
Oh,
They did. No, all over the country. Yeah, I'm serious.
They take seaweed.
So that was it. That was a cute.
They wrap up seaweed.
Hello, they have in other countries supplements, and
They
even
don't
in Japan.
Have TV. What are you talking about?
Okay, I'm sorry. Keep going. Yes, lifelong vitality is fabulous and amazing. You probably were taking the Terrazymes and probiotics also, I would assume.
I was.
Okay, good. Okay, keep going.
Yeah. So what I took on a daily basis, I wrote it down. I took a full dose of lifelong vitality, and I take the vegan lifelong vitality.
Okay.
I take Terrazyme, PB Assist, those Digescent soft gels. Like I mentioned, I was taking them every day. And it wasn't just one a day. I think there's a misconception about like one and done, and people are like, oh, I'll just take this and be done with it. But especially with essential oils, they are metabolized by the body pretty quickly. And so if you feel like you need more and it's been a few hours, then I always encourage other people and myself, like, go again. Like
totally
round two. Like,
yeah.
They're good for you. So I think people are afraid of taking medicines over and over again because medicine is bad for you, but essential oils are good for you. So it's okay to take essential oils multiple times per day.
Yes.
DDR Prime soft gels, I would take one with breakfast and one with dinner. And I liked those because they support the cells. And since I didn't know what my root cause was, I knew that I wanted to support my cells in doing what they needed to do. I was taking grapefruit essential oil internally.
Like in your
sometimes
water?
in my water.
Oh,
yeah, sometimes in my water, sometimes in capsules, depending on the day.
Okay. How many drops were you taking?
So normally I never take more than 2 to 4 drops of an oil internally, but since citrus oils are so much more gentle, I had seen another protocol for women's health where they were recommending 16 drops of grapefruit per day to help with women's health.
Yeah.
And so I was doing like 8 drops of grapefruit in the morning and 8 drops of grapefruit in the evening, either in the veggie caps or in my water if I remembered to put it in my water. And so I wouldn't recommend that for other oils, but citrus oils are completely different in terms of how, the toxicity levels and everything.
Yeah,
totally.
And just so you know, there are toxicity levels to these oils. So there's plenty of charts online and things like that. But unless you're pounding bottles and just, you know what I mean? Yeah. You're usually safe. So.
And it also depends on what's going on inside of your body, right? Like if you're just a normal functioning body, you're not going to need as much. But when something's off, you might need more support during a certain period of time, right? Like when my kids are not feeling well, then they get way more oils internally and topically than they do on a regular basis, right? So she's adjusting something that is just, what?
Children too, smaller doses. Whatnot.
Yeah, and more often. But we just had another lady on here, and she was able to totally adjust her blood sugar levels inside her. Was it her blood sugar levels?
Blood sugar levels
by taking it's like 15 drops of Slim and Sassy she drank throughout the day. So again, right, when you got something going on, less more often, totally, but you got to adjust and just really pay attention. That's something that I love about doTERRA. I feel like I've gotten so much more in tune with my body, like paying attention, like, oh, wait a minute, okay, and you can adjust. And that's a great thing about oils and using things that are healthy and natural, and even like with your food, right? Like you can have as much broccoli as you want, You know what I'm saying? Like, you're going to be fine, but you're probably not going to naturally choose to eat, 5 pounds of broccoli because your body knows when it's done. And I feel like kind of similar thing happens with your oils. You're like, oh, I think I've had enough of that oil. Or you know what I'm saying? You're able to kind of feel it. It's not like other things that are not good for you that somehow you eat like 20,000 times way too much. And you're like, how did that happen?
I gotta fix myself. Let me eat this pint of ice cream.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. But when you're using something healthy, I feel like that doesn't happen the same. Like, who often is like, dang, I ate too much broccoli today, right? Like, it doesn't normally happen. Or I can't believe I drank way too much lemon and, throughout the day. Normally, you're not. Like, you might accidentally put too many drops in your water.
I often overeat broccoli, so.
Yeah, okay. Anyways, I apologize. Keep going.
So grapefruit, 16 drops.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mito 2 Max.
Totally.
I stopped having any caffeine because since I felt worn out and tired all the time, I learned that caffeine actually makes you more tired out. Like, initially you feel the energy, but then it wears down your adrenals over time. And so I knew I needed to help that system get rebalanced again. So I completely cut out caffeine. No coffee, no caffeinated tea, nothing that had caffeine in it.
That's awesome. So, will you touch really quick? I have actually not heard that.
Coffee to that?
Yeah. Oh my gosh. So eventually, like, I'm not a coffee drinker or a caffeine person, but I haven't heard that before so coffee over time wears on your adrenals?
Yeah, so it stimulates your adrenals, which is why it gives you that initial energy burst. But if you're constantly pushing on them, working them really hard every day, then it just wears them out. And so now that I've been however many years without caffeine, I feel great pretty much every day. Like, I don't need caffeine. I don't miss caffeine. I don't feel like I'm missing out on anything. And all the caffeinated beverages that people enjoy, like coffee and tea, they have decaf versions of. So it's not like I'm missing this experience that other people get,
Yeah, totally. Thank you for sharing that. That's great. We got to get you off coffee, love. Anyways, keep going.
Don't know what you're talking about.
I want to work for tiring down those adrenals.
Yeah. Mito 2 Max helped to provide me with some natural energy during that time that I was making that adjustment period. Because if you go cold turkey off caffeine, everybody knows that's not a pleasant experience.
Totally.
And being a tired teacher, that Mito 2 Max it really helped every day.
Yeah, totally. And you guys, so Mito 2 Max is actually food for your mitochondria. So that's really great at helping regulate your hormones. And since yes. So anyways, awesome. Good job. That's great.
It was definitely a good fit for everything that I had going on. And the other thing that I did was when I first woke up in the morning, I would have a big cup of aloe juice mixed with tara greens. So I was kind of just helping to detoxify first thing in the morning and give my body some extra nutrients that were easy to digest. Like, waking up feeling nauseous is not a pleasant thing. You don't feel like eating a whole lot. And so to have a beverage that was, easy to digest and tasted good, was really nice. It's crazy because people think tara greens are like, ew, greens, that's probably nasty, but it actually is kind of sweet. Tastes really good.
Oh yeah, the stevia in it makes it super nice. Really fast, honey. I think we're gonna be able to see that in the recording if you don't X that out.
X what out?
The Zoom thing in the back.
Yep, I don't think so.
Yes. And maybe we want to check the other phones and make sure they're still recording.
So, thank you.
I know. Okay. All we'll just see. Okay, I apologize. Technical issues really quick. Go ahead.
Not for me. For the non-producer.
Okay.
That's technical issues.
Okay, anyways, go ahead.
You can edit stuff out, right?
Yeah.
Cool. So that was my doTERRA protocol: the Lifelong Vitality, the TerraZyme, the PB Assist, DigestZen soft gels, DDR Prime soft gels, the grapefruit essential oil, the Mito 2 Max, and the Tara Greens. Those were all my daily, everyday things.
Okay, that's awesome.
Nowadays, I still take the Lifelong Vitality, the TerraZyme, and the PB Assist, and the DDR Prime.
DDR Prime is great for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And I'm really a firm believer in keeping our bodies healthy to begin with, so that we don't have these things come up later on.
So how are you doing nowadays?
Yeah.
I'm doing awesome. So the GYN who diagnosed me with PCOS, she told me, you will never be able to get pregnant without medication. And even at the time, I was kind of skeptical of that. I was like, I think I can like fix some stuff. And if I fix my blood work and get rid of, I regulate my cycle and everything, I doubt that.
Mm-hmm.
If I had caused my body to be sick, then why can't my body heal itself? If it got, it's just a reversal of the same process.
Yes.
So over time, after using all of these products for such a long time and implementing a lot of self-care practices like the daily exercise and prayer time and meditation and changing what I was eating for sure. After a period of time, I got my period back, and then my cycle started to get more and more regular. And then it got even better than it had ever been, where like, most women have like the cramps and the mood swings every month. And it got to a point where I didn't even have those regular awful symptoms that most women have. And my period wasn't just back, but it was a 28-day perfect. Like I could count down to the day, down to the hour when it would happen. So my hormones were so regulated that I knew that I would be able to get pregnant. I was like, that's ridiculous that they would ever say that to a woman. Like, you can't get pregnant.
Yeah, for sure.
So when I was sick during that whole time, I'd been dating my boyfriend for several years, and I was kind of worried that he would never want to marry me because he thought that I couldn't have kids, right? And he wanted kids. He wants lots of kids. So last year we got married, and I got pregnant on our wedding night.
Yay! Woohoo! Congratulations! So you have a baby.
I have a baby. She'll be 4 months in a couple days.
Oh my gosh. Congratulations.
Awesome. And you're on your second?
On your second already. Hello, 4 months. Hello. That's a man speaking. Let's go again.
I don't think it's
no. Women, listen. It takes like 2 to 3 years for your body to recover from that.
Not really, though.
Well, for sure it takes 1 year. They say 1 year, let your body fully heal. So, anyway, okay, first of all,
do you want more children?
I do. I just not yet. I want to give my body some more time to even though I feel great. Somebody was telling me, they were like, how when you're pregnant, like all your organs are in different places in your body.
Oh yeah.
Like after the baby comes out, they don't just go like whoop back up to where they were.
Totally.
Nice.
I feel good, but yeah, I'm gonna wait to let everything.
So every 2 years.
I remember feeling like when I would start exercising again after. So we have 5 kids.
Oh wow!
And so that was our youngest. He's 3, and our oldest is almost 18 on Sunday. Anyways, and I remember after, you like 6 weeks after, a couple months, like I remember just feeling like when I'd start doing my first, run again or walking again, I would just feel like, I could just feel that things are like not all where they're normally at inside of my body. I'm like,
exactly.
And go easy, sister. Go easy. So yes, give yourself time to heal. A massive thing just happened. That's super awesome, and congratulations. And you're feeling great. You're feeling better than ever. So that's awesome. And this is you guys, I'm so excited that Molly came on and shared her story, because this is such exciting news for everyone, all of our audience. Like, this brings hope. Just because you've gone and a doctor has said something doesn't mean that you can't come in. And I'm not saying it'll 100% work, but what I'm saying is that you have options. I'm saying you can take your health into your own hands. You can decide that you're going to change your lifestyle so that you can get the most out of your life. And that's exactly what she did. How long did it take? Like, how many years or how many months was it before your period started coming back? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, when did you notice when you were on this protocol? When did you start noticing a difference?
It took a year to get my period back. And then after that, it just kept getting better each month, every single month. And so in the grand scheme of things, 1 year is nothing. But when you're in that sickness and every day feels so hard, it seems like a long time. And so now I always use that as an encouragement to people too, because people take 15 years of abuse to their body by whatever their lifestyle that's not so healthy. And then they're expecting to get better in 1 month. They're like, oh, well, I took the Lifelong Vitality last month and I'm still not better. And I'm like, dude, you had 15 years of damage and you're expecting to get better in 30 days? Like,
yeah. Tripping.
Such a good point. I'm so glad you brought that up. Totally true. You have to give yourself, and here you were, like, your whole life and all of this stress, years of it, I mean, really, a year's short, actually, when you think about how long it took you to get there.
Exactly. Yeah.
I mean,
Dang.
plus that's awesome. Like you dedicated yourself to fixing yourself, and you fixed yourself. And they said it's so ridiculous how many times, oh, you're diagnosed with X, you're gonna die in 2 weeks. Oh, it's 10 years later, and I feel great. It's like, come on, guys. Like, let's.
And it doesn't always happen that way, but there's cases, and there's
It always
more
happens,
than,
actually.
and
They did a
there's
study.
more than one
Every single
reason,
time it
right?
happens
There's
that
more
way.
than one reason that it happens that way.
single time.
It's the mindset along with the whole lifestyle change, right? Like she said, she was meditating and she was exercising,
Well,
and there
here's
was
the gnarly
prayer
part, too.
involved. Like there was other things besides just going through the motions of taking some pills. You know what I'm saying? Like you really dove in deep, and you were like,
So imagine if
I'm
you
changing,
had,
fixing myself.
imagine if you had just taken their word for it and been like, okay, I can't get pregnant.
Oh, that'd be
That
so
sucks.
sad.
I'm sad, but oh well, you said it. As opposed to, and imagine how many people do that. Oh, just their mind defeating themselves throughout from that point on.
Well, and if you'd stayed down that road, you probably couldn't have got pregnant, actually.
That's what I'm saying.
Right? You
Right.
probably wouldn't have been able to.
Yeah.
But it was, there's hope, my friends. There's hope. Like, this is so
Yeah.
fabulous. There's hope. What a beautiful story. And I love that you guys, it took her a year. It might take you 2 years, right? Like, we
Or
don't
2
know
and a
what's
half.
going on. But the point is, if you're determined and dedicated to fix something in your life, that means you decide you're going to fix it and you go till it's
It
fixed.
sounds like there's a jet engine outside.
Probably they're doing the yards.
Oh my gosh, can you hear that?
A little bit, but it's not bad.
Okay, good,
So
good,
that
good.
means okay. So that's so awesome that, especially just not taking no for an answer, not taking accepting any type of defeat, and that's awesome. Now, no matter what, everything you did, you had the optimum result. You got pregnant, you had a child, but if you did everything you did and weren't able to have a child, but still your health was so much greater. So no matter what, if it takes like some sort of holy moly.
Maybe we'll just wait for. I think they're like,
Sounds
oh,
like there's,
it's
right
the
there.
street. It's
We're
the
in the
street.
so our
Swifter.
studio's in the garage.
It's a
Garage
sweet
door's
day.
right there. It sounds like this dude's like going by with like
He
a.
is. He is cleaning
It
the
is a
street.
little louder now.
Okay. Like, so
It
he
stopped.
should
It
be
stopped.
leaving. He should be leaving
kind
now.
of stopped. He's heading away. Thank you, sir. So just not accepting it and thinking, you know what? Some could say, oh, that was her rock bottom moment, maybe as far as health. And then you just said, I'm going up from there. You know what I mean? So
And I want to say one more thing. Like, did you have like a time limit where you're like, if this doesn't work by this time, I'm throwing it out? Did you do that at all at any point, or?
There were times that I thought that about certain things, but what stopped me from doing that was knowing that the things that I was doing were good for me anyway.
Yeah.
So like,
Mm.
I've seen people take lifelong vitality for 30 days and say, oh, it didn't help and it was 30 days. Okay. Well, like we just talked about, it can take longer than 30 days. It depends what your body's doing, what you have going on. But what stopped me from taking it is that I looked at what was in it and I looked at what I've seen it do for other people. And I researched the ingredients that were in it. And I thought, okay, well, even if this doesn't fix X, Y, Z, it's benefiting my body. It's helping my body to have what it needs. And if my body has what it needs, my body knows what to do. So I didn't know how long it was going to take. And yeah, there were days when I was really frustrated and discouraged. But since I am just kind of this nerdy researcher, if what I was doing was something that I knew was beneficial, then why stop doing it? Like, why would I stop taking care of myself when I haven't gotten to where I want to be yet? So it almost motivated me to do even more. Like every time I realized that I wasn't better yet, I was like, well, I need to add on another healthy routine. So like, you know, the no caffeine thing was another thing I added in. Okay, well, let's take out the caffeine. And then I still was having some digestive stuff. So I was like, okay, well, I'm taking Parazyme and PB Assist. Those are both good things, but let's take out dairy and gluten.
yeah, totally.
And so every time that I wanted to get to another level, I added in another self-care thing that I knew would help support me in what my goals were.
Okay, so it's another good point to the audience. Like, you didn't just jump on and just do everything in one day. You weren't like, that's it. I'm never drinking coffee again. I'm taking all my dairy out. You know what I'm saying? You didn't do that. You started at a base point and you moved forward and you progressed.
Gradually, yeah. It was
Yeah.
a very gradual process. And even now, some listeners might be intimidated by this. Don't be intimidated, everybody. I'm whole food plant-based, so that's kind of an elevated version of being vegan. So I don't eat anything that comes from an animal, and I only eat whole foods. So like stuff that has ingredients, I don't eat, because real food is ingredients. Like fruits and vegetables and nuts and seeds and beans and grains, those are all the things that I eat. And so, but even that, like even cutting out animal foods, I didn't just one day go, oh, I'm going to be vegan today. Like, I don't even like labels like that. I just knew that the animal products can cause estrogen dominance, and that PCOS was an estrogen dominance related problem. And so I thought, well, if animal foods are adding estrogen to my body, and that's not what I need right now, then let's gradually stop eating beef, and then gradually stop eating chicken, and then gradually, each thing one by one over the course of that year.
So really quick. So then do you eat honey?
Honey is the one thing. So people who are vegan for the animals, they don't eat honey because they say it's mean to the bees. Honey is, it is mean to the bees, but
it's so good.
Health-wise, it's okay in moderation. It still is sugar though, so you don't want to, a teaspoon a day is okay, but more than that.
Yes.
So what is it called when you only eat things from an animal? Because that's what I am.
Carnivore?
That's carnivore.
All I do is eat things from an animal or animals. So.
I know. Thank goodness he's married to me, because I'm like, hello, where's the vegetables?
Every time I cook, it's like, and there's no green. She's like, all right.
I know. I come in and I'm like, let's throw up. This is a portion. Like, we should have way more veggies here than we have that protein. Let's like even this out.
Yeah.
But, okay, so you don't do eggs?
No way. No way.
Okay. Do you do butter?
No way.
No. Okay.
No,
wow. Okay.
She doesn't do butter, doesn't do eggs, doesn't do fish.
Lover.
Ask me, I'll tell you.
Okay. So you don't do fish?
What did I just say? Pescatarian. I can answer your.
Okay, and you guys, this is another thing. Like, she's doing what feels good for her body. That's super important to pay attention and just be like, okay, like what works for your body? Because we did actually a 42-day juice fast. My husband and I. That was not good. That was not good for our like.
Well, hold on. This is why it wasn't good, because she said the only way I can do this juice fast is if the juice tastes good. So our juice would be red with all these fruits. We'd have plenty of greens, but
that's not why it wasn't good. That's not why it was good. For me personally, like I was the weakest I'd ever been in my whole life.
Because we
like
had
on
not
a
enough
physical.
Vegetables. If it was mostly vegetables,
that's not the only reason.
It would have
like
been way better.
I know that I need some sort of. Well, there was no protein, right? Like, and we were doing it for like cleansing, resetting the body purposes. And kind of a challenge. We were trying to go for 60 days, but we at 42 we were like, we're done.
I lost 42 pounds in 42 days, and let me tell you, I grapple and do all this stuff, and so I started to wrestle this like dude that was clearly smaller than me. I'm like, oh, this little guy.
And this was a long time ago. Obviously, this is not what we look like when we do 42 day juice fast.
I was 192.
Yeah, he was way too skinny. It was terrible. Yeah. And zero, like his sex drive was like gone. He probably doesn't want me to say that, but like, just so you know,
edit that out.
If somebody,
I was a beast.
No, it wasn't. It was so terrible. I'm like, what is happening now? I know, but that's something important. So if you are someone, you have a lower sex drive and you're not eating protein, it could be you just need to add some protein into your life.
You couldn't hold me back.
No, it wasn't. I was like, this is not going to work. We're going to have to quit this juice fast immediately.
Okay. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Bye. Oh my gosh.
Those are the terrible truths. But someone might not know that, right? Like,
Right. Yeah, listen to your body for sure. And that was one of the things I learned at the Integrative Institute for Nutrition. They talk about bioindividuality, which is the concept that there's not one right thing for everyone, and that we really need to listen and figure out what our bodies need on a daily basis.
And what's crazy is I've never known that more than with the oils. Someone will say, oh, XYZ for your arthritis. Another person says, that doesn't work at all. I use ABC, which is something you would never think was used they would apply for their sore knuckles. And it totally works. So when you see people using such different oils for for the same thing, it's like, oh, okay, we're so different, each one of us, no matter how similar we are. We all talk, we all have eyes, but like, we're so different. So.
And I love that. That's why in the Modern Essentials book, there's like so many oil options for every single different ailment. And so if one doesn't work, it's like, whoa, doesn't mean oils don't work. It means let's try something else. Your body chemistry is a little different.
Awesome.
There may be a different reason that you're having that issue than someone else, which is the same case for you, right? Yeah. Like there was a different reason you were having those symptoms. It wasn't, it wasn't because of what they thought, right? So that's great.
Yeah. So before we wrap up here, did you have any final messages that you wanted to, and also we're going to share any type of link that you want us to share too at the end?
Oh yeah. You guys, part of this is we're people connectors. So I'm sure some of you are like, Molly, I need you in my life, Molly, right? So her link's posted below, so you can message her and you can do business with her, and you can work and become live a fuller life because she's in your life.
And
like
it'll be her cell phone and her work phone. And so just call her at all hours of the night and day. It's totally okay.
Okay, it'll be her business link or whatever she wants. Okay.
Any final messages?
Yes. I would just say that nothing that's negative is permanent. Like you have the ability to help your body to have what it needs to heal itself, because our bodies are designed for homeostasis. Our bodies want to be balanced. And so when we give them what they need, then they know what to do. And the oils are part of that. Our supplements are part of that. Our lifestyle is part of that. What we're eating is part of that. And so don't let anyone ever tell you that you have this terrible thing that you can't get out of, because that's not true. The only way that you can get stuck in that is if you give up and stop trying to find solutions. So.
Excellent.
Amen, sister.
Thank you so much.
Amen.
Your story is awesome, by the way. I love the fact that it ended with a baby.
No,
not ended, but
it's continuing down
the track. They said you couldn't, and you said I could.
That's
and I
right.
did, and I have one. So awesome. We're looking forward next month to hearing that you're pregnant again.
Oh my God.
I love it. 4 months, that's 20. In 20 months, she's going to be pregnant again. That's
maybe or maybe not. Whatever's best for her and her family and their bodies.
Well, thank you so much for everybody joining us. Thank you so much, Molly, for joining us and sharing your story.
Totally.
Thank you so much to the billions of people out there, billions and billions of people out there joining us.
And we would say, you guys, spread the message, because for sure we're not making any claims. We're not making any claims at all, but the value that comes from personal stories from the people that they happen to, like for me personally, there's not much more that's more valuable than that.
And
there's
more
so
powerful,
more and more powerful, you guys. There's so many stories and there's so many to share. If you have a personal story that you would like to share, message us, because we would love to get it out there. Message us soon though, you guys, because we are like super booked out months in advance.
I mean, I remember
we're so many stories.
I remember like before internet or at the very advent, like you'd hear someone did something. The beginning of jiu-jitsu, it's like, oh, I'd always been into martial arts, and then all of a sudden my boy's like, hey, I got this videotape, and it's these guys fighting, and all of a sudden I'm introduced to jiu-jitsu, and then the UFC, you're like, oh, there's this guy that teaches them, they can do this, and now it's like, oh, they said she couldn't get pregnant, she did. So these stories help and hopefully give you hope and hopefully give you ideas, and hopefully something can work for you.
Yeah. And again, we're not making any claims at all, but this is her personal experience. This is what happened to work for her. This is what she did at the time. And this is what she's doing now. And so we're just hoping to offer some hope, some possibilities, some examples, some encouragement.
Thank you so much for joining us.
Have a nice
share, spread
day.
the word.
Yeah.
If you have any questions about oils, you can contact us. You can contact her. We're more than happy to help. And join us next time.
Remember her link's below. So message Molly. And one more thing. You guys, if you could share it with 2 friends, share this podcast with 2 friends and write a review. We would really appreciate it.
Thanks for joining the UnAlteredE Experience. Have a wonderful day. Remain unaltered.
Remain unaltered. Thank you, Molly, for joining us.
Thank